Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of Jake'sTake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. Now, before we get started with today's conversation, please give us a thumbs up if you're watching us on my YouTube channel and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this on our audio platforms, make sure you get a 5-star rating and please subscribe. It really helps my channel. It's a privilege to welcome this musician on my right. He has, as of this recording, over 4,000 Instagram followers, and he is the owner of E. Bolton Music, and he's also the member of the band Shy Harry. So please help me welcome Eric Bolton to the podcast.
Thank you, Jacob. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome, Eric. And Eric, you are coming to us via Ontario, Cambridge, Ontario, in Canada.
Yeah, about an hour-ish southwest of Toronto.
That's pretty cool. I always love Canada. It's a gorgeous area.
I agree.
All right. So, Eric, when did you get interested in music, and how did that passion inspire you to pursue a career in the recording industry?
I've always grew up playing music, and it was a passion. It was definitely prevalent in my home growing up, but it wasn't until I was after high school traveling a bit where I started to think I didn't want to come home from traveling and dive into school. I wanted to dive into making music and being involved in the community, and that very quickly developed. I started just by kind of saying that's what I was interested in. A lot of the Cambridge community started seeing if I would teach their kids music, teach guitar lessons, and then I started getting performance opportunities, and it really quickly snowballed from there. And it was kind of it was through traveling really that I realized that's what I wanted to do. And the more I get into it, the more community opportunities come about, the more I see why this was the right thing for me. It's been community and music building at the same time.
I'm so glad to hear that, because that brings a great segue to my next question about, besides being you own E. Bolton Music, and so how, over the years, in your humble opinion, how have you helped the Cambridge, Ontario residents become better musicians? And in your humble opinion, how has E. Bolton Music made an impact on your community?
Oh man, it's a big question. I had always looked at it as teaching music is just, you helping people grow as far as learning, but it also was that I got to meet so many people in the community because of performing music. So it was a blend of me being able to sort of help someone else develop their music, and also my music carrying me further into the community. But what's neat is I used to see it as just teaching music, and now I see it as artist development. And it's a big difference where over the years, me and the team of people that work with me started organizing concerts for our students, but then started organizing concerts for traveling songwriters or for local songwriters. And we started developing concert series that were the only ones in our town that were either featuring students or featuring songwriters, giving them a platform to actually share stories of their songs. And to this day, we just keep doing more and more every year. And so it's been really cool to see this sort of interest in music and interest in the community gradually become a segue to helping a ton of artists develop and help, whether it's our students or whether it's local musicians and songwriters. So it's been really great. But then also the give back of that, the amount of opportunities I've had to be in part of organizations or charities or fundraisers, just because they want music there and they want to entertain people while also trying to support a great cause. So it's been so cool to step into really important initiatives just because I have music to offer. And I don't think I ever anticipated that when I started a career in music. I think I just liked music, but now I see that there's a lot of power in bringing people together through music. So that's kind of what I would say. It's been a great community to develop in.
That's incredible, and I love hearing stories like that. Do you think it can grow bigger in, like, not just Cambridge, but also some other areas of Ontario, or maybe even other Canadian provinces?
I definitely used to want that. I wanted, at one point, I even was looking at opening another location in Halifax, in Nova Scotia, so on the East Coast. Um, and it's something I think I'd still be very open to. Then, with all of the COVID pandemic stuff, a lot of our students switched online. And to this day, we have students who started taking lessons from us online because suddenly that was more of a thing. So I see it as something we can still keep spreading online. But I'm not too sure how far I would push it as far as our physical locations of what we do. But it's great to gradually every year do more and more in the music scene. Like I'd love to see our team start helping with provincial music events or with larger festivals and joining in. So not just helping our downtown core and our community here, but maybe helping in the whole like Southern Ontario kind of sphere. So we'll see. From a teaching standpoint, really now there's no borders. You can teach across the world using Zoom, but it'd be neat to see how we develop the songwriter and concert side of things too.
Absolutely, because there are so many key factors. It's like, okay, performance venue, does it have a streaming option? Do you need to have a VIP reception? So, what are some of the challenges that you and your team go through to make sure that eBolt Music does continue to it still continues to roll out and grow? And how do you overcome those obstacles?
Well, so right now we went through like a wild time. So we're some of what you're saying is what we're trying to figure out right now. We went through a wild time of downsizing our studio space because of the pandemic and not using our space and not being allowed to use our space. And so we did downsize, and we also were kind of preparing for a move and switching locations and maybe finding something that's a better fit. And then now, since everything's pretty much back to normal, we're sort of in the redevelopment stage of how do we get things up and running? How do we get new storefront location going and just start engaging more with the community? So this summer, what we've done is we've helped organize three different concert series for our town, and each one we say, or even the people we're partnering with, it says, presented by Ebolt Music, to try and show our still presence in the community and our love for this town. And now it's now into the heavy work of rebuilding the brick and mortar side of things.
That's amazing, and I really hope that you are able to rebuild the Ebolt Music's brick and mortar.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty, so today one of our major points of our conversation is your latest album. As of this recording, it's about ready to be recorded October 14th. So knock on wood, fingers crossed, everything. So how long did it take you and your team to create this album from inception to release?
Wow, man, it was a long time. I started off, part of the problem was we were originally just going to do an EP. And it was right around this time, it was September 24th, 2021, where I released a single called The Home Light. And then I was going to follow that up by recording an EP of songs, just like four more songs kind of thing. And then October 8th, 2021, The Home Light ended up landing some really cool UK radio opportunities, and then got featured in Classic Rock magazine. And all of a sudden, I opened my phone and I was tagged in a contest, and Classic Rock magazine had put my song up against like Robert Plant and Buck Cherry and all these guys. And I was blown away as to be just the track of the week. And I was very surprised because I didn't know they knew who I was at all. And I ended up winning. And a lot of people from my community voted. They said that was like the first time they'd seen so many Canadian voters. And but because of that, publicist company, like a PR group in the UK, started helping me out some more. And they were saying, well, in the UK, EPs don't really go super well. Albums go well. And so then suddenly we switched gears and said, well, instead of recording an EP, I guess we're recording an album. So I had a handful of songs I'd already written and was passionate about putting on this album, but then it needed quite a bit more to extend it to what I wanted. And what was great about that is it really forced some new writing and um, allowed me to showcase a different side of writing as I developed, even from writing those songs. So the recording process was delayed a little bit more because it meant suddenly I had to write more songs. And so the process of when we started recording to when we finished recording and finished mixing and mastering was about 6 months. And we used 3 different studios, had a whole choir of people singing on 4 of the tracks. It was really exciting. There was a whole core band that we did it all in one studio in Hamilton, Ontario, live off the floor. So we're all playing together. I'm a very live musician. I really like when you get that live energy. So we did it all live off the floor. And then we took things back to my studio where we did the vocals and organ and acoustic guitar. And then we went to a whole other studio to do the grand piano and the choir. So it was quite the drawn out process because of all of that. And I'm so proud of it now. But because of all of that going into it, now it's just like I'm trying to push it harder than anything else in the past because it's a lot went into this one.
That's incredible. And but here there are some points we got to talk about before we get to songs. Robert Plant and Buck Cherry. Oh
Yeah.
my God, you beat both of them?
I was blown away. And I think it's, to be fair, I think it's because they probably weren't telling their fan base to vote. Whereas I was pumping it like, everyone, I need your votes. And I think it was a very different sort of thing in their minds than it was. They might not even known it was happening. But in my mind, it was such a crazy opportunity. And every day I would log in and see the voter polls and see that I was winning by far. And it was quite exciting, but also quite surprising.
And Classic Rock Magazine is no laughing matter. It's probably one of music's top publications as in this era.
Yeah, it was really wild. And because they did a very small printed feature of me in their December 2021 issue. And that was really motivating. And because of that, also it's helping a little bit more with this release to sort of get a bit more attention saying, you've heard me in the past. Here's my next thing.
I'm happy for that. And also, this is very interesting here because it feels like North America, musically, we embrace the EPs.
Yeah.
And UK, they embrace the albums.
They want that full-length album. They're cool with singles too. But it seems like they either want singles or albums. So they're open to EPs, but it seems like it's not the same reception.
Absolutely. It feels like they want something like a Thriller or a Bad versus like a Beat It with 3 singles.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I love talking with songwriters and producers about the stories behind the songs. So I took 4 of the songs that I really like from Here Between, and I would love to learn their stories.
Cool, sweet.
Let's start with World of Dreams.
The opening track. Cool. What would you like to know?
I would love to learn the story behind the song.
Cool. World of Dreams. So, in many ways, I really wanted this song to be the lead track on the album, not just because it kind of has that sort of upbeat opening kind of feel, but just thematically. I had a friend who was running a lot of mindfulness and wellness online things throughout lockdowns and things like that, doing a lot to encourage people and help people with where their minds were at as they're sitting at home, isolated, things along those lines. And this friend, her name's Erin, and she led a really cool online thing where she had us all sit there and close your eyes and start to picture the world that's right for you and picture your perfect paradise. And what does that look like? It's going to look different for everyone. And think of, what does your friendship feel like? What does your house look like? What does everything look like? And as you start to picture it and you get into the feeling of how that world feels, you then go forward, making the decisions for your life, always picturing that perfect, idyllic sort of thing. And that way you start to build that world. And so for me, I was coming from a place of, coming out of a lot of personal development. And it was a lot of growing, a lot of tackling past issues, a lot of starting to focus more on my health and things like that. And was definitely in a place where I was moving from tackling the past to wanting to build the future. And so this idea of picturing your perfect world and then starting to build your life choices with that in mind, you see that world start coming together. And I really quickly started to see, even just in a couple months of trying to live that way, I started to see things coming together where suddenly things were more in harmony, and there was more, the people that you're talking with every day are people who motivate you and things like that. I started to really see that you totally can build your world of dreams. So the idea of what's your dream world, and how can you start building that, and how can you take ownership of your life and things like that. So a very positive switch to the album, and a good setting point to the album in my mind, because I've then referenced sort of building that world, and reference dreams and all these things that you wish would come to be as the album goes on.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's definitely amazing to hear you to go through all of that. Next song I would love to hear the story about is Hello Angels.
Mm. Hello Angels. So this one's the lead single. So it's not the lead track, but this is the one where we focus the most on. So I come from a religious background, and there's a lot of messaging in a lot of the Christian world, at least, that, we're very fallen people and we're very broken. And a lot of that, for myself. So I'm also from the queer community, and that's also not exactly encouraged in a lot of conservative church upbringing. So I had a lot of messaging my whole life of how you're broken, you're wrong, you're on the outside, you're the whole Garden of Eden, the idea you're cast out of Eden, all these things like that. And you're always trying to just work within this fallen world. I was trying to challenge that in the verses of this song, to say like, hey, to all these fallen angels, like we actually can fly, and we actually can thrive. We don't actually need that Garden of Eden. We don't actually need those things that I think religion guilts us into needing, at least from my experience. And then so it became then a song about finding yourself, and a very uplifting song about learning to thrive and overcome some of that negative messaging that you might have grown up with. And for me, it's religion. For other people, it might even just be their self-confidence and having messaging about image, whatever it might be, and just learning to step into yourself really authentically and to thrive. And I'll just add to that, there's a music video recently done for that song where a team of people made a storyline of someone like a boy with a feather, and the feather is the symbol of their identity. And as the video goes on, the boy starts to see people thriving, and they each have their own feather and their own identity, where there's living boldly and full of love. And it's been cool to see that come together as both the song and the video. So I'm really, really excited about that song.
That sounds incredible. It's very difficult to have two different conflicting like personal beliefs versus your identity versus your religion come clashing together. It's always a problem. I'm like, it's 2022. We're not living in 222.
It's true. It blows my mind, but it seems some of these conversations just keep going. So it's nice to be able to start contributing to the growth mindset of that, and not sort of be sitting in the sidelines the way I used to.
Absolutely. Okay, so when I was listening to Before You Wake, there were hints of Drift Away in there.
Drift Away.
Yeah, as in Give me the da 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 da. You know Uncle Kracker song?
Oh my goodness, Uncle Cracker. I was just joking about his one tune a couple weeks ago. I forgot about that guy altogether. Yeah, I would have to hear that song again, to be honest. I don't quite remember it off the top of my head.
It has shades of it, so shades.
Amazing. I'll check that out after this. Yeah, I can only think of the "Follow Me, Everything Is Alright." That's the only song I can think of by him.
The thing that comes to mind is actually his cover of "Drift Away."
Oh, amazing. I'll check that out. Yeah. Before You Wake.
Yeah, the story behind that.
That one actually it ties into what we were talking about with World of Dreams. So Before You Wake is a song about trying to step into picturing that world. And so Before You Wake, it's saying sort of like while you're naive and in your own little perfect little utopia, what are the dreams you have, and what's that world look like, or maybe what's the parts of things you don't tell people about. And so a lot of the lyrics to the verses are what comes alive in your secret paradise, and what does everything look like before suddenly you open your eyes and start your day and the world comes crashing down and sort of steals that away from you. So what is your world before you wake? And it doesn't have to mean sleeping, but it could just be when you're in your own mind, what's your perfect world before something forces you out of that. And so the song Before You Wake, I really loved writing that one because of the guitar line. The guitar line, it's very melodic, and I based all of the vocals off the guitar because the guitar was sort of leading it. And it's very different from the other songs on the album, I would say. But it's the verses are what's that world that you're picturing? But then the choruses are the downside of like almost like that world being ripped away from you. And so it doesn't really, it's not a song that resolves. It's a song that just leaves you sort of like, this is what I want, but it keeps not coming together. And it just leaves it at that and lets some of the other songs on the album address the next part.
Awesome. And speaking of other songs, you're not going to believe when I say this. When I listened to Neon Soul, I was like I thought I was listening to I Hope You Dance from Leanna Womack, and then and some of Rob Thomas's solo materials like Diamonds,
Cool.
I Can't Take No More. Those, like, that kind of Rob Thomas era.
Fun. He's another one where I've heard people mention Rob Thomas, and I only know a couple tunes. I'd have to deep dive. I'd have to learn some more Rob Thomas. But Neon Soul, yeah. Do you want to dive into that one?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Neon Soul was actually another one where the guitar line led the way. I wrote the guitar part, and it was one of those songs where every time I picked up my guitar, I wanted to play that guitar part. So I knew this song had to be on the album. I wasn't really sure what that song was going to be about. But I knew it had energy, it had groove, but it also had a bit of angst and a little bit of anger in there. So I wanted to try and bring that out. So I kind of, again, in the pairing of songs, this one actually pairs better with Hello Angels in that it sort of like is sort of fighting with the powers that be and calling on the inner, like your soul, to shine brightly to sort of help you navigate all the mixed messaging of who you are and what you should be doing. So Neon Soul has again a little bit of anger in the verses, as it's sort of mad that anyone would try to dim the inner light. But then getting into still a little bit of that hopeful side of things that your Neon Soul can kind of help you figure your way through. But we still left it sort of unfinished. It's left it without, it doesn't resolve the message. It just addresses that portion of the feeling.
Awesome. I'm loving hearing all these stories. It's amazing.
thank you.
All right, so have you thought about your dream collaborators, the singers, the songwriters, the musicians, the producers that you would love to work with in the future, and how would they enhance your sound?
Oh man, I love the second half of that question. How would they enhance your sound? So yeah, because I definitely have a huge list of artists I'd love to work with. Um, you know, ones that it's like they're not with us anymore, and I wish I had had the chance. I think of people like I think of you know if I think of like Eddie Vedder, I think of how he would probably call me to give everything and every note, and sort of I feel like Eddie Vedder would make would make me step up the passion and like bringing it at a different level. I felt that with Chris Cornell when I saw him live. I know he's not with us anymore, but it was just something about those guys where they give you everything they've got and every single note that they sing, and I've always admired that. Um, but then from a messaging and powerful, important artist standpoint, I would say someone like Brandy Carlisle. She's such a powerful vocalist too. I think she'd be like one of the rare people I feel really nervous singing around because she's so good. But I would love to share a stage with her. Uh, John Mayer would be great. Again, challenging from a guitar standpoint. There's a guitarist called Mateus Sasato. If I could someday do a song and have him do a guitar solo on it, that would be great. I would also happily do a guitar solo with him, but he is my favorite guitarist, and I almost would just want to leave him to do his thing.
It's like going up against Leslie Buckingham and Carlos Santana.
It's crazy. So I would love though to work in studio and just see the way he thinks and approaches the songs that I'm writing. So I'd love to work with Mateus Sasato.
And back to Brandy Carlisle, she's a huge bridge builder because I remember seeing Joni Mitchell and Winona on the same stage with her.
Right, just a month and a bit ago, and that was so cool. And even I read her book, and her whole way of just living really holistically and being very whole. I really admire it, and she brings meaning. She's really great at building community and showing people, giving people a space. I think it's amazing, and I think she even did it, like we said, to someone as powerful as Joni Mitchell. Even Joni Mitchell was ignited by Brandy Carlisle, so that says something to me.
And not to mention, not just those two, but also Sir Elton John.
Yeah, and they're like good friends, from what I understand.
That's incredible. So, speaking of music and social media, this is the last question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Where can they find your music? If I know you're going to be promoting this album, so if you are going to promote this album, where can they find tickets to your shows if they are in Canada? And also, where can they connect with you?
Well, I'm definitely going to be, my main personal platform is Instagram, which is just at Eric_Bolton. But I have a website, ericbolton.ca, and on that website, I have my show dates and where I'll be. I have all the links to follow me or listen on Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon Music and a bunch of other online platforms. Those are the three biggies. YouTube, I'm on there. I hadn't done a lot on YouTube until recently, especially with the new music video. So that's already live and there. It's only been out for 2 weeks and already has over 25,000 streams. So I'm pumped about that. Let's see where else. I'm on also like SoundCloud and Bandcamp and things like that. But I'll be pushing it a lot. And if anyone wants to find all the different platforms, best bet is to go to ericbolton.ca.
Awesome. So, guys, if you miss an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast, visit our channels on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Spotify, and Spreaker. It's Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. JACOBELYACHAR. And Eric, just to let you know that my platform turned 11 years old this year.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I don't look 11, but so if you want to find more articles, more interviews, more reviews, my takes on America's Got Talent, Canada's Got Talent, and The Masked Singer, head over to jakes-shake.com. Eric, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been very nice. I appreciate the opportunity.
You're so welcome. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great day, everybody. Goodbye.